All right, so it is Tuesday. This is it's Wednesday, April 9th. It's a day after the podcast was supposed to release. Um, and I just wanted to come on, say something before you all listen to this. So I had let me see the exact term for it. I had a fixed delay sync issue on this podcast. Thankfully, John did a lot of the talking in this podcast. So, shout out to him for that. If I did a lot of talking and he did as well, it would have been an absolute cluster. Um, but I kind of let John take the reins. I didn't talk as much, and that honestly benefited in the long run here. But at some points in the podcast, you will see some of the audio is overlapping. Um, there are times where you're probably going to see my lips moving and no words because John did have so much information that he relayed within this podcast that was absolutely unbelievable that I was like, you know what I'm saying is irrelevant compared to what John is saying. He had some awesome insight on a bunch of topics. He told some fantastic stories. So I just wanted to come on here before everybody listened to this podcast and point that out to y'all. Hope you still enjoy the podcast. Hope you still have fun listening to it. And I do hope you will listen to my podcast again. But if this is your first impression, it is not always like this. But this is just the nature of the beast sometimes. So thank you to you guys for still listening. My apologies. I tried to do the best I could with snipping down some of the stuff, but I'll be honest, it was pretty hard. It was a challenge, but and it didn't help that Riverside FM couldn't do anything about it. So, um, enjoy. Once again, sorry. But hopefully this doesn't happen again because it was a pain in the ass. But thank you. Enjoy. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Trout Wrangler podcast. I am your host, Ryan Garrity. We have a guest here today, one of my real good friends.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Thanks again, Ryan, for having me on. It's a big honor. I miss you immensely. My name is John Grasta, and I've been down here in Florida for the last 16 years. And I am basically, according to Casey Males, the god of Spay. I am the most relentless Conor McGregor spay rod fisherman on the freaking planet. Okay. I think a two-handed fly rod is the end all, the be all. I think throwing monster iguana flies, okay, big craft fur flies, okay. So the whole nickname Johnny Big Fly Grasta is not just a handle. It actually, I mean, it's a 12-inch popper I put together, okay. So what's interesting about Spay is, guess what? You don't have to be in Scotland wearing a kilt and a dress coat and throwing a 15-foot fly rod. So in the time I've been fishing, I have learned you can't always go by an existing method or an existing technique or gear. Okay, so I have 46 years of fly fishing. Right now, on a fly, okay, on a fly, I have 90 species. And then on the spay rod, on the almighty Mullinair Hammer of Thor, I have 80 species. I am probably the only guy in America right now, if not the whole planet, that has multiple fish on a 15-foot fly rod. The last time I got multiple fish was at Osceola Outback Adventures, and I've got multiple triple barramundi and I have people to back it up.
Dude, I have you are probably one of the most I still tell the story to this day. Um the one when we were out there, you'll probably tell the story here in a little bit. I still tell it to this day. And my girlfriend asked me today, she's like, "Who do you have on the podcast today?" I was like, "My buddy John from Florida." And then I told her the story, and she was like, "I have no idea what you're saying, but she's like, that sounds awesome." But dude, yeah, you are the most hard nosed spay rod fisherman I have ever met.
Well, you know what's funny about chucking that two hander is I'll start from the very beginning. Okay, so I grew up in Rochester, New York, uh, very close to Lake Ontario. My family loved the outdoors. Okay, my parents had a home that we literally lived on a pond called Long Pond, which was a small contributory to Lake Ontario. Okay, growing up, my grandparents were like my quintessential, second mom and dad, and there ain't a day go by I don't miss them. My grandfather was the guy who taught me how to fall in love with fishing. Okay, so from like a little 5-year old kid with a push button Zebco and a bobber and and a worm catching a little bluegill like that, that's what got me hooked. All right, and if I look back at how those guys were compared to how I am now, there's no comparison. Okay, what they did is they took a really difficult thing of fishing, and to get someone to fall in love with that and to stay in love with fishing in the outdoors. I mean, I'm 57 years old now, so like literally my whole life, you couldn't pull me away from water. Okay, you couldn't. And anytime that we would go visit my dad's friends in Ogdensburg, New York, okay, Skinny Atlas, Seneca Lake, anywhere I would go, if it was near the water, man, you couldn't get me away from it. If I wasn't fishing, I was chucking stones and skipping stones across the water. Okay, then when I saw my grandfather take this old fiberglass metal furl two-piece fly rod with one of those spring reels, like a self-winding reel. I saw him go like that,
Uh,
and I was like, "What the holy hell is
oh,
that?" He says, "Well, it's a fly rod, Johnny. Have you ever seen one?" No. So he goes, "If you want to learn anything about fly fishing, okay," he said, "here's a book. You're not going to believe who the author was of the book that he had." So my grandfather had a book, fly fishing, some title by Lefty Kreh. It was one of Kreh's books. Okay. So then the book also covered saltwater. So
oh,
then growing up and fishing and stuff like that, my grandparents were notorious for kidnapping me and pulling me out of school and creating a spoiled little bastard, and a little prima donna. Okay. So I've had a chance to catch all kinds of fish in New York State, and including a sturgeon on a fly rod. And on my TikTok page, if you scroll down to the many pictures I got posted, you'll see a picture on a dock with a 12-weight sage fly rod and a monster sturgeon. Okay, so that's what got me bit and hooked on like the big fish. Being able to take my first car, which was a 1978 Buick LeSabre, I would hit like the local stomping grounds of my hometown and catch steelhead and salmon, bluegills, smallmouth bass, largemouth bass, pike. Northern pike were my favorite because they just smash it like a dog. Um, then as I got older, I would watch the guys in the Salmon River and the Pulaski River and the DNR, all the hot spots where guys are like, "Well, John, you got to go to Montana for spay rod fishing." Listen here, Bob. You don't want to go to Montana. You need to go to New York State. So my other grandfather, which was my father's father, he had an apartment up on like the third floor of an apartment building. Below it was this river that flowed into downtown Oswego. All right. So he was an absent grandfather. All right. Not like my mom's father. My mom's father was the freaking end all to be all. All right. My dad's father was from a challenging generation. All right. But he had that love for fishing and hunting. And I do appreciate the time I had with him, even though I would have liked to have seen him more. We would see guys with fly rods, spinning rods, spay rods, and I was like, well, what the hell's a spay rod? Okay. So back then, not a lot of people were really good at it. Not like the fellas over like in Washington and British Columbia in the Pacific Northwest. Okay, you know, guys like George Cook from Sage and the
Right.
OPST guys and stuff like that. And a good friend of mine named Ben Paul. He's a hell of a guy. Great steelhead guy. I'd love to get him down here in some warm weather, but we need to make sure he doesn't get sunburn and sunstroke. Okay, because he's he's like in that Twilight Zone Pacific Northwest area where everybody looks like a vampire and nobody gets any sun over there. They're all pale. So what fly fishing has done for me is it has shown me many different things uh, that most people that get into fly fishing are broken down into several categories. I'm going to start with the first one because I really don't care for this category. This category is the elitist. I make more money than you and your whole family put together. I fly fish because I can and you can't. Well, buddy, when I was powerlifting, that's like me saying to the average guy sitting next to me, well, I was a 705-pound squatter. Since you can't do it, then you really don't know shit. Okay. I disagree with that whole mentality. Uh, I'm sure somebody's going to get their panties in a wad from hearing that, but you know what? Bite me. Okay. If that, if that offends you, okay, then you better stay in your mom and dad's basement playing video games, okay? So call them in the wine and cheese crowd. Well, I have some more colorful language for those kind of guys because I'm not a bass pro and I don't have a muzzle on right now. So what? So I want to get to the story about you and I and Derek at Mosquito Lagoon. All right. So when people talk about, fishing in a challenging environment, okay, the Mosquito Lagoon in Florida, it makes Johnny Weissmuller in a Tarzan movie look like a bingo game at a church. Okay. The conditions and the environment
Oh yeah.
and all the structure and the water and the different species have taught me. It's taught me how to take a 15-foot pole vault with this big wheelie thing on it, okay, and a depth. Oh, this is really smooth. So when I get done with this story, I'm gonna share with you some of my favorite gears and what my go-to setups are. So Derek and I and Ryan, we basically did what I call the Iron Man day of fishing. Okay, and this is one of the main things that I admire about Ryan is that when we hit that spot, as I recall, that was the only spot we fished in, right? Right. I think you hit another spot, and then you met Derek and I, and then we fished it the whole day. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's right. Okay, now I'm starting to remember it. Okay, so the fishing that day was a bitch. Okay, I think I caught one little snook,
Oh yeah.
one or two ladyfish, and then Derek caught a redfish, and then another snook, and I can't remember what you caught. But I'm saving the last one for last.
Dude, I think I
Okay, okay,
I
yeah,
think I
that's right.
might have caught. I
Because
think
I
I
heard
might
you
have jumped a
squealing
couple
like a
tarpon,
schoolgirl at a
and
birthday
that
party.
was it.
So the last fish, and this is what makes this fishing memory so special for me and Ryan and Derek, is I landed uh, about 30 to 45 minutes after the sun went down, the second largest speckled sea trout that I know of anybody had caught on a fly for that particular year, which was what was that, 2021? Okay, all right, 21 or 22, because I got the picture at home at Bass Pro and I signed it. I can't remember what year it is. So, anyways, I used a god awful big popper. I should have pulled it from my box, but I used something like this on a 4-aught. So Derek Powell, who I call the ultralight fly god, okay, because he's always using like little tiny gurglers and he's using stuff that makes this fly look big. So he's using the gurgler, and Ryan's to my right, and I'm like, you know what? I'm I'm gonna snag something. Okay, now we had alligators in that cove. We had a multitude of manatees. So I take about a 6-inch chartreuse tail popper with these chartreuse rubber legs, yellowhead on a freaking 4-aught J hook. Okay, we're talking about a big popper that you be throwing for like pike and muskie, and whatever else is going to want to hit it. All right. So I'm real big on ball breaking and impersonation. So Derek's throwing the little fly rod, and he's like, "Look at me, look at me." You know, I'm throwing a 5 weight, okay? And don't even get me started on a freaking 5 weight, okay? So I throw that with the 15-foot 10 weight Sage spay rod, all right? And I'm heaving 140 to 150 foot cast. Like literally, I can launch that big ass popper like in this much water under the mangroves, okay? And then I got the rod tucked here and I'm stripping. I was like, "Hey, Derek, I can't thank you for enough for inviting me to fly fish with a tarpon, you know. I said, when you come to Norway, you can come fish with me. My name is Niklaus Bauer. I'm from Division Fly Fishing and Fly Dressing. I take you pike fishing. Okay. So I'm ripping on him unmercifully. Okay. Because his little popper's going kabloop, kabloop, and my popper's going kablam, like flushing the toilet. Okay. So all of a sudden, something whacks that big ass popper. And I'm like, "See, Derek, I told you the spay rod was the best way to catch the popper." And then all of a sudden, this fish starts pulling mono running line through my fingers. Like, it's a good fish. And then I'm thinking, going, "Man, did I just snag an alligator? An alligator or what? Something's pulling." It's very rare for a fish in shore like that to pull the running line through my fingers. So then I was like, "Hey, Derek, I told you I had some fish. Can you get some net?" And then all of a sudden, I get about the fish takes a run like this. And I got about 20 feet of running line going. I go, "Hey, man, I ain't playing. There's something big on here. Can you grab the freaking net?" Okay. So he grabs the net. All right. And then
Yeah.
I feel more confident that he has a net. And I'm like, "I told you the spay rod was going to work." And then I yelled over to Ryan. So then Ryan's coming over. And it's a good thing he didn't trip because I don't think any of us had any lights on our hats when it got dark. Okay. So we get that freaking fish out of the water and we put it on the ground. It looked like a god darn freaking chum salmon, the fattest, largest speckled sea trout that I personally have seen in person. And I can't believe I caught it on a spay rod, let alone a 6-inch yellowhead chartreuse popper with rubber legs. We measured, it was over 29 and a half inches long. And then the picture I have, I put the fly on top of the fish, and then people at sea go, "Oh, that's a little tiny baby popper." I go, "It's on a 4-aught hook with the largest double barreled head popper you can put together." And I said, and that fish smoked it. So we released it. All right. So a while later, I get a message from another hammer of a fly guy named Dr. J. Wright. Okay. J. Wright holds several IGFA fly records for speckled sea trout. So he goes, "Hey, Johnny," he said, "I see a picture of your gator trout." He said, "Why didn't you submit it to IGFA?" And I'm like, I really don't have a warm, fuzzy feeling about IGFA. All right. His 20-pound tippet record is 10 pounds, 10 ounces. My fish was 10 pounds, 2 ounces. So I'm sitting there kicking myself in the ass
Yeah.
for not being prepared to send that in to IGFA. All right. Now, this is a while ago, and then I've been fishing that spot for the last 8 years. I have never hooked into such a big speckled sea trout in all my life. So now, based on the conditions and the time of the afternoon, when I see those conditions, that's when I'll drive out there and start fishing. Okay. Now, in that same spot, I've got
Yeah.
tarpon that are in the 40 to 50-inch range that using a topwater popper brings them onto your fly because everybody's like, well, hey, John, if you're going to tarpon fish out the Muskie Lagoon, you got to sight cast. Let me tell you something. If you are the kind of guy that's going to stand there like some chick at the prom waiting for somebody to ask you to dance, or some guy lives in his basement, he goes to the prom by himself and he's waiting for a girl to ask him to dance, we're not going to fish together because I know for a fact that no matter where I go in the state of Florida, from here to the Keys, a lot of that nonsense about seeing tarpon rolling and then sight casting for them, if you want to fish like that, go right ahead. But if you don't catch nothing that whole day, and then I blind cast over 1,000 casts a day and hook into fish, I don't want to hear nothing out of your mouth. Shut your pie hole. Stick to your bougie, sight casting kind of mentality. Just like there's a guy down in the Keys that told Bob Clouser using a spay rod down there. Is like this. Well, geez, what? Geez, Bob, how's Johnny Grasta gonna pull in 100-pound fish on a spay rod if he's on a boat? Because that fish is gonna come after him, and he's not gonna be able to pull in 150 feet. Hey, listen, what do the guys do with a 10 weight? There's a guy in the back of the boat. He starts the boat, puts it in reverse, and starts backing up, or he starts pushing you with a push pull. Okay, so that kind of bullshit don't apply to me. Okay. The next thing is this, and we're going to go into the gear. All right. I research spay rod fishing like I am possessed by the devil. Okay. When you talk about passion, all right, I've got passion. I have discipline. I have desire. I have a no quit attitude. And if and it's very rare that I can't figure something out. I don't go run to Bob and say, "Hey Bob, I have a problem with this. Okay, what do you think I should do?" Hey, look, I'm 57 years old. The days of asking Bob Clouser that shit went by 30 years ago. Okay, so I started to research double-handed fly rods. Then I started researching shooting heads. So when you type in spay on a computer, as one of the guides in Rochester says, your whole head will explode, your computer software is going to explode. Because how are you supposed to get started if you don't know what to do? So I called my casting instructor, Kevin Cram. Okay. Hey, Kevin, do you know somebody in Florida? He goes, yeah, I do. I go, well, who is it? He goes, you need to call Dave Olson. Here's Dave's number. Okay. So Dave Olson is no longer with us. He died last year. Uh, yeah. So quick bio on
I,
Dave Olson. He was a lifelong, Florida resident. Okay, his family was born here. He was what I would call the walk-in encyclopedia. All right, so he told me back in 1997, him and his buddy were walking the beach, fly fishing for tarpon like they do every year, and they saw a couple of old guys chucking two-handed fly rods. Well, guess what happened? Dave went and got two-hand fly rod. He went and put a 12-weight tarpon reel on there. He put the 100 feet of fly line with, like, say, a 10 or 12-foot leader, and then, like traditional tarpon flies, like stuff, not like that big one, okay? All right. Something that most guys will handle on a single hander. Okay, so Dave told me, put the tarpon line on, put your 12-weight reel on, and you're going to go back, pinch the line here, and then bam, you're going to load the rod. You'll be at 110-foot cast like that. Well, after about 7 days of casting like that, I started getting frustrated. So everybody's like, well, why would you get frustrated, John? You're throwing a 100-foot cast with one back cast going forward. I go, yeah, but it's not enough distance. So down here in Florida, as anybody knows, when you're fishing the beach, okay, let me get this little guy out of the way. All right, he's distracting me. So when you start fishing the beach, all right, a lot of times you might need to make 100-foot plus cast, okay, and you need to be accurate on it, okay. So I called Dave before I called Kevin, and then Dave went like this. He goes, I heard you'd be calling me, Johnny boy. He goes, what's the problem? I go, if you already heard I was calling, you already know what the problem is. I go, so what is your setup? All right, I need some freaking distance. 100 feet just ain't cutting it. So Dave said, hey, look, put the real grip shooter, 50-pound running line. I use a 640 grain scanty head, which is 40 feet. So now you're at 140 feet. And then, continue using the 10 or 12-foot leader. All right. So next day, I went back out to Sebastian Inlet because the snook were biting real good. And within probably 20 minutes, I already maximized a 150-foot cast. So I said, piss on this. I'm not going to call Dave a second time. All right. It's embarrassing. I'm supposed to be, um, at that time, I wasn't really in the fishing business. Okay. So then I started researching and I started buying. Okay. Uh, I looked at the different rods. I even called uh, Bob Miser of Miser Spay Rods. Hell of a guy, okay, because he's like the guru, one of the gurus of chum salmon, steelhead salmon with a double-handed fly rod, okay. So then I also called Kerry Berkheimer, okay. Man, I wish these guys were down here in Florida. Boy, oh boy, I'd love to see them catch fish. So by that time, I already had several sage rods. Dave was like, you got to have a faster action tip so that when you pull back, you don't deep load the rod, and then when the line goes back, it's not going to snag. It's not going to snag somebody behind you. Okay. So then when you start using, the sink tips and the mow tips and the sinking lines, they all cast differently. Okay. So basically, what I did is fast forward to current time is I was able to get an arrangement with Paul Conover of Old Mariner fly reels. Okay, at the time of his reel company, they didn't have a 5.25 diameter. Okay, this is the largest fly reel on the market right now. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so now when we're talking about improvements to help us with our fishing. This is like a conventional reel that you'd use for offshore, like a big bait caster kind of reel. You can't take it apart and finger fuck it. Sorry, didn't mean to drop the up. Okay. Um, and then I asked Paul, I go, hey, can you put like a lever or a lockdown knob or lever drag or however you want to classify it. So you can go from zero to the drag that you want. Then I teamed up with Gary Peterman, the owner of Flies to Fins monofilament. Okay, so feast your eyes. Check this out. Okay, this is the first nano infused monofilament, low stretch, high abrasion resistance, and this is the 98.1. This breaks at 133 pounds. Okay, so this spool here is 24.95
Oh my.
plus the shipping. Okay, now all of a sudden I'm
Okay.
talking to Paul, or I'm talking to Paul, and I'm talking to Gary, and I said I want to light the spay rod technique on its ass. I want to flip it upside down. I want to kick it across the yard. I want to beat the piss out of it. I want to Hulk smash the beach with a 15-foot rod. So what Gary did for me is he was able to give me chartreuse and pink, which is like traditional colors for running lines and whatnot. And the reason that I literally bought every single shooting line that's on the market is I wanted to see what was best for me. Okay. I wanted something that's low stretch. I wanted something that would give me an edge in comparison to like traditional setups and methods. All right. So then the other thing that Gary Peterman did is you see how this
Right.
is kind of pinkish, like pink fluorocarbon? Okay. So this is like the best shock leader material that I've
Yeah.
ever used. All right. So when I got all my samples in, I teamed up with
Uh-huh.
the leader material. Okay. Now my stuff is heavier poundages. But the remarkable thing when you talk about the 98.1 line, the diameter is a 0.031. Okay, so for most guys that bait rod fish, if they're using a two-handed rod and they
Okay.
like a thinner diameter line, they usually stay within uh, a 0.020. Then you go into the 0.30, which will give you the stronger poundages. Then every guy that loves to heave a spay rod and bomb, the so-called 100-foot cast, I lay on my back and I cast 150 feet at the convention center. So come talk to me about bombing big casts, okay? And now this has a different molecular structure as like traditional mono. So you remember the Mason hard mono that's on the market? That's super stuff, super stiff, makes a great butt section, but
Yeah.
it's a bitch to tie knots on. You really got to be a master of your knot tying to use that stuff. Well, guess what? I have what I call the next evolution in butt section material. So now I use this for my shock leader, and I use this for my long leader. So then, catapulting to modern time, I am, at least in the state of Florida that I know of, okay, I am the only two-handed fly rod fisherman that will use a 20 to 30 foot long leader when I'm fishing. Okay. So here's why I started experimenting with a
Holy
longer leader.
crap.
So I was watching YouTube like I do every day, and I saw an underhand casting video from Klaus Freemore from Luke Tackle over there, and he calls it Scandyland. Okay, this guy is a trip. I'd love to get him over here. So they use a method of as they're pulling back to set their D loop and anchor point, as the head is coming out of the water, they accelerate when the leader's still anchored to the water. So in order to help the anchor point in their D loop cast, they use like 17, 18, and 20-foot leaders. As soon as I saw the cast, I was like, oh shit, we got to do that down here. Okay, I see an tremendous possibilities of utilizing that type of cast down here. And then I've got guys from my club like Jim Glass who have caught permit and bonefish on a two-handed rod down the Keys with a similar method. Okay, so the Mosquito Lagoon is a challenge. The Florida Keys is a challenge. Okay, we're talking about some of the toughest fishing on the planet. Okay, I
Oh
don't
yeah.
care. I got a friend Jim that's on TikTok. I think the world is this guy, but I don't think he's ever left the goddamn state. He was trying to tell me that his state's got better fishing in it, and I'm like, dude, it's freaking cold. You look like you look like a freaking vampire from the Twilight movie. Okay, at least my vitamin D level's up. Okay, so anyway,
Oh
so
yeah.
trying to create a technique to enhance my fishing has always been one of my goals. All right, so now I can take up to a say a 640 grain Skagit head, which is the short, 24-foot heads and shorter, and they're real fat. Okay, and if you don't know how to cast,
Uh-huh.
that it hits the water like this. Now, if I take say a 30-foot leader, which is going to weigh over 100 grains. You have to add that into your grain window to maximize the physics of the cast. All right. So say you got an 800 grain head at 27 feet. Now you've got uh, 30 feet of leader. All right. When you go to throw a tarpon fly like this, if you don't have the physics of that cast dialed in, all right, you're gonna be pissed off at yourself. Now, if you're taking like this little paleo worm fly, okay, it'll be a lot easier because there's no wind resistance. All right. So in regards to the flies that I use, I only tie flies that turn into a freaking heat-seeking missile punching through the air. Okay, I've I've watched all kinds of videos, here and there,
Oh
and
yeah.
there's a guy, Dan McGuire, has a spay rod pike fishing series. Okay, um, And he's like, well, some of these flies, they're not they're big and they're bulky and they're air resistant, and you really can't get a lot of good casting on some of those patterns. Okay, so when I look at that as a fly fisherman, okay, why would you throw something that's bulky? Number one, why would you throw something that at 80, 90
Right.
feet, your airspeed's going great, and then all of a sudden a little bit of front wind takes your cast and it makes it go. Okay, just like a single hand rod. Okay,
Yeah,
so
it
then,
goes crazy.
uh, like when we're looking at like my designs of how I tie, I put like UV resin, like shellac on a wood table. Okay, I'll take. Can you see the lead weight on that hook there? Yeah. So I'll keel weight my flies, and basically what I'm looking at is from accelerate to a hard stop here. I want to establish my line speed up here. Then I'm going to slowly pull and accelerate to a hard stop. Okay. And that's how I'm able to get 172 feet in a fishing application. All right. Now, what happens is if you use cheap mono running line, okay, I want to give a shout out to Tim Rollins, the Line Speed Jedi, because when I first started watching Spay Guys, he was one of the nicer, kindest guys that was totally honest. Okay, so I want to shout out to him. The people that have been influential to me, uh, Tim Rollins, Gary Carlson, okay, Ben Paul, Oliver Sutro, okay, of course Kevin Cram and Dave Olson, all right, and those guys. But when I watched all of these guys cast, the first thing I said to myself, Ryan, is I want to be like that. Then once I mastered what I saw them doing, then I said, what can I do differently to enhance all that fishing? Okay. So then I went down the quintessential rabbit hole and
Right.
I haven't come up for air since I went down there. Okay. But it is a big honor to be able to sit there and say, for that year, I caught the second largest speckled sea trout on a fly, and those guys, Derek and Ryan, were there. They saw it, and it was a fish of a lifetime. And if I wasn't using a spay rod, I probably would have never caught that fish. Okay, man,
Oh,
you talk about a hard day of fishing, and then neither one of us, of the three of us, were like, nah, I don't want to go. And then all of a sudden, you got one alligator coming up. You got another. You got another. You got another. You got another. And I turned the headlights of my truck on. We were surrounded by, I think, 8 or 9 big ass alligators. That, I mean, so we call him Hector. Okay, we call him Hector. Uh, so that's what really inspires me is that I always watch somebody fish. Here's an example about how I get influenced. All right, see this monster popper. Okay, looks like a big jalapeno with UV on it. All right, it's got
yeah.
130 pound spro swivel on it, to 200 pound mono, to a 3/0 treble, to a dubbing brush, and then black and purple. All right, so when I see the popping cork guys fish, and I see the bigger spinning guy, the bigger spinning rod tackle guys fish, the first thing I say is, why, as a fly fisherman, are we not heaving something big like that? So here's what I get. Well, John, in the fly fishing industry, this double barrel popperhead, that's about as big as you can get. Okay. So this is a diver that I put together in an iguana pattern. All right. If they made that popperhead literally like
Okay.
the size of this bottle of UV resin, man, I would buy 100 of those suckers a year, and I would fish the crap
Uh
out of
huh.
them. All right, so that's what led me into how can I duplicate what those guys are doing in a fly fishing 2 hand fly rod capability. Now I'm gonna be honest with you. All right, if you're going to run this 12-inch popper, you are not using a 30-foot leader, buddy. Okay, I can use a 15-foot leader on this thing, and the furthest that I've had it at Sebastian was 163 to 165 feet. Okay, but I'm also elevated. Okay, all right.
Holy
So
shit.
um, the
Right.
weight of the fly is something that I also take into consideration when I add the grain weight of the fly to the grain weight of the leader, and then the grain weight of, say, your shooting head. Okay, because once when you start looking at all this stuff, all right, your Scandi heads and your Skagit heads, your Scandi rods, your Skagit rods, those are forms of casting in the different areas that they were originated from. Okay, so like the Skagit casting with the short, heavier heads,
Okay.
that started over in the Pacific Northwest, like in the 90s. Okay, so I look at all of those guys from the past and I watch what they do. I watch, and I have journals. Okay, I have journals up the wazoo, and I write all this crap down. Okay, and then bam, I might watch a video 50 times and go, why? How the hell did I miss that? And then I add that whatever I said, holy crap, I can't believe I missed it, and then I add it to my technique. Okay, okay, so here's another one. All right, so when you take your 12 weight reel on here. Say you're using a 13-foot 8 weight rod. What fly line should I use? Because the manufacturers say
Uh huh.
13 foot and an 8 weight. Well, you're not going to throw an 8 weight line on here because the 40-foot head's not heavy enough to load the rod correctly for you to be efficient in it. Okay, so an 8 weight rod, most of these guys will use like some of the rods, they'll use a 600 grain head. All right. So when you're talking to spay rod guys, oh, geez, John, 600 grains. Oh, my goodness, I'll get a hernia throwing that. Hey, buddy, put yourself away from the dinner table, start working out with some dumbbells, and start practicing that. Okay. Master this thing like a set of golf clubs. Okay. Man,
Hell
I've
yeah.
never seen so many guys that'll go pay cash for a freaking Humvee and then go to a fly fishing club and then piss and moan about how come they can't cast 100 feet with a freaking spay rod. Listen, I lay on my back and do it, and I'm 57 years old. Okay,
Right.
so if you take your fly line and you run it through the rod and you put it on the grass, all right, and then start practicing a back and forward cast where you can get a super tight line loop, you get super fast speed. When you're here holding the line, you're going to put a Sharpie mark on it. Then you're going to take your bobbin for the guys that know how to tie flies, and what you're going to do is you're going to whip finish a thread bump, put UV resin on it so that every time that you pull that line, that thread bump can be anchored right here. So when you accelerate to a super hard stop, that thread bump is going to keep you from losing your line. And then if you're having trouble with the monofilament, okay, that's why it's important to have this line for your shooting line, because when it's wet in a cold water climate, or if it's wet in a tropical climate like down here in Florida, when you pinch that line, I barely hang on to it. And I've got, say, a 27-foot Skagit at 800 grains, 20-foot plus leader, and say, a fly like that. When I accelerate to a hard stop, I'm inside like a telephone booth. Okay, I'm I'm pushing, I'm pulling and pushing at the same
All right.
time. All right, not a terrible concept to grasp, okay? But for guys that have been fly fishing for decades, they still want to push with the left hand. I've got a strap that when these double hander guys come to Bass Pro, I like literally wrap the strap around them, okay? Because I got sick and tired of squeezing them together, and then guys would think I'm hitting on them. I'm like, no, 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 keep that elbow right here, okay? So you'll see guys, they'll go back and then they'll go up like this and hold the rod, okay? There was a guy on YouTube, he said he made a 180-foot cast. I sent him a private message, and yeah. He goes, I make 180-foot casts. I go, what's your setup? He goes, I got the Rio grip shooter at 100 feet. I got, I think it was a 630 or 600 plus grain head, which is the Scandi heads are longer, okay, like the head of a 12 weight fly line, okay, but they have a heavier grain window.
Okay.
So that's 41 feet. So he's at 141 feet. And then he's using like a 9 or 10-foot leader. So you're at the 150-foot mark. Dude, you're 30 fucking feet off a 180-foot cast. There's no way that you can make that 180-foot cast,
Right.
okay? Now I said, hey, look, I'm never going to, call you out, Okay, but I watched your video about 35 times. There's no fucking way you're making a 180-foot cast. Okay, all right, on the beach. Okay, so another bougie guy that doesn't know 100 feet to 180 feet. Okay, everybody thinks 100 goddamn feet is like 130 feet. You must not have
Right.
did well in math or did well in shop class. Okay, because I know what 100 feet is. Okay, I know what 150 feet is. I know what
Right.
172 feet is because every time I make an improvement on my casting, I always got multiple people around me and a freaking tape measure. Okay, so when guys want to call me out and say I'm full of bullshit,
Oh yeah.
okay, ask Bob Jackie Klauser, ask the guys in the Florida Fly Fishing Association, ask Tammy and her Tasha and her husband Brandon from Decision Tactical because at the last Home and Garden show I hit 172 feet. Then I hit 150 feet laying down on my back. So I don't want to hear no nonsense that it can't be done. It can be done. All right. But you got to be relentless. Then you got to be able to self diagnostic things. Okay. Uh, it's like when I was powerlifting. Okay. One of my training partners went to the reigning world champion in 1997 named Tony Command. Tony Command at 198 pounds squatted 880 pounds. I saw it at the IPA World Championships at York Barbell. And my buddy Ronnie's like, how do I get my squat? How do I get a big squat? So Tony goes, squat, just squat. Well, what else do you want me to do? And and Tony's
Yeah.
looking at me, he goes, I just told you what to do. Okay. So my friend just was like, he couldn't wrap his head around that simple concept. All right. So when guys come to me and go, man, John, I want to cast like you, just cast. Well, what do you mean? What about my D loop and my anchor point? Fuck all that D loop and anchor point bullshit. Okay. A lot of these two-handed guys are going to be pissed when they hear it. I really don't give a shit because you were fishing a freaking technique that's been around for decades. Okay, there's new evolutions, there's new techniques all the time. I do what I call a stopped roll cast. So when I set up my D loop and anchor point, because I have a faster action rod, I can pause and stop my head from moving. Okay. So when everybody's telling you, hey, John, it's Russ from Claremont, you got to have constant moving, constant motion in your roll cast. Okay. That's bullshit. Okay. You don't. Okay. And here's the reasons why
Yeah. No, you
before I
don't.
piss off any more people than I do right now is if you have a stiffer fast action rod, as you go to push, to pull and go like this. Short, compact movements. Like you see how my reel moves, okay? When you hit it hard like that, look at the exertion I'm creating on the
Uh huh.
spool movement. So if you're doing this, okay, that's a tremendous amount of power. When you have enough line out the tip of the rod, you're going to load the rod, and the rod is going to do all the work for you. You are just establishing speed and the physics, and you're just following through with the right hand, okay? It's not a hard concept, but here's the problem that I've run into from everyone that I've had chance to cast in front. When's the last time you pick up a fly rod? Well, I've been busy at work, John. It's been about 2 weeks. Okay, I'm going to explain it to you this way. You have 24 hours in a day. You have 1,440 minutes in a 24-hour time period. Don't tell me you cannot afford 30 minutes a day to increase the proficiency in your technique and how you use the rod, and then to make it so effortless that when people see you fish, they're going to go, wow, holy shit, did you see the cast that guy made? Okay. Uh, so Bob Klauser told me this a while ago. He said, I've never seen anybody cast like you. I've never I've never seen anybody in Mosquito Lagoon cast
I
in
hadn't
between
either.
trees and not get snagged. I've never seen anybody take such monster flies and heave them like you're sending a howitzer down the pipe. Okay, but here's the thing: I'm not the kind of person that's going to follow tradition. Okay, um, now that I'm not bodybuilding and powerlifting anymore, I'm not 210 pounds. I'm down to like maybe 170. Okay, so with some of the injuries I've had from being a younger snot-nosed kid, I need to be more efficient. Okay, when I go through the spay pages, I read the history of spay. I've read just about every written freaking article from some of the most unqualified people saying, you know what, I like this Sage Method rod, but you know what, I'm not an elite level spay rod caster. Well, then why are you doing the review on it if you're not? Okay, like I just sit there. It's like check this out. So this is a powerlifting story. So when I was training at World Gym in Rochester, New York, my hometown, at this particular time, I had already won 4 consecutive back-to-back New York State championships at 198. So they hired this kid that was a personal trainer. All right. Now my training weight was about 200 pounds to 202 at that time period. I got a guy my height comes over like 140 pounds trying to tell me how to squat. Now I got big baggy sweatshirt on. I got big baggy sweats on. Okay, I'm trying to warm up because I'm going up to 600 pounds for reps. So as we're talking, I just kept my mouth shut and I said, "Hey man, can you help me load the bar and watch my depth?" Okay. Uh, so when I get to my top set, which was 605, I did it for 6 reps. Okay, knee wraps, squat suit, had the straps down, and a double thick belt. And I had a pause at the bottom where literally my hamstrings were touching the back of my calves. I thought that my knee wraps were gonna like cripple me. That's how tight I had them on. I got that kind of mentality from my 6th grade science teacher, Jerry Welcher. Jerry Welcher was my coach, literally like my whole powerlifting career. Okay, um, so I take that same thing and I apply it to the spay rep. Okay, so when you take away the Skagit technique, and you take away the Scandi technique, and you take away the long belly spay rod technique, you basically have different types of shooting heads with either a nylon coated running line or mono. Okay, so so for the life of me, I couldn't figure out
Oh,
as I'm watching like these spayarama things where these guys are standing in a pool casting, long belly spay lines, and they're basically sweeping back, creating a D loop and anchor point, and then they're pulling. And next thing you know, they're like literally doubling the distance, or so, where they're like getting in the 170-foot range. Okay. I saw that and said, man, I gotta throw like that. So I
okay.
can't remember this guy's last name, but his name is Travis. He's got cauliflower ears. He's on Instagram. Freaking dude is a savage. Okay, Tim Rollins knows him. Okay, I have the utmost respect for this guy because I think in 2016 or 2017 he was a world champion. He made a 178-foot cast or 177-foot cast on a Sage 15-foot 10 weight with a long belly spay line, and the model of the rod was a TCR. Okay, so when you look at the history of the Sage rods, the TCR series were powerfully built, super fast action rods for elite level casters. Okay, so when I see guys, writing a forum going, oh, I'm really not a great spay caster, but you know what, I was asked to do this article. That it's bullshit. Somebody you knew you chirped in their ear and got that article going. Because if I wrote a goddamn article on fucking two-hand fly rods, okay, it's going to take all that shit for the last 40 years and it's going to push it off to the side. And the common guy who's making $10 an hour going to school, just barely surviving, is going to jump on a freaking two-hander. Okay, so for me, uh, I'm what you're going to call the poor man spay rod guy. Now, don't don't tell Sandra. Okay, she's in the house right now. I have literally like 25 or 26 freaking spay rods. Okay. And I've met several people through eBay so that when I need a rod of a particular model, I usually do a barter. Okay. Where if I got to pay the shipping on my rod coming to me and the shipping going to my new friend, I'm still lucking out and I'm not paying the 12 or $1,300 on some of these higher end rods. Okay. So I read every single review
Right.
on the Sage TCR. Then I read the review on the TCX. Then I read the review on the Z Axis. Forgive the order of these rods. Then I read the reviews on the Sage Method. And then I read the reviews on the Sage Igniter. Then I read the reviews on the R8 Spey Rod. Okay. We're going to push the R8 Spey Rod aside. Every rod I mentioned other than that R8 Spey Rod is what I call the King Kong 15-foot 10 weight. Go chase a 100-pound tarpon or bigger double-handed rod for the beach. Okay. Uh, I have three of them. I have, I have three igniters now. Okay. So when Dave Olson died, there was one thing that I wanted from Dave because when he built this Sage Igniter 15-foot 10 weight, right around the time he made his, I had made mine. Okay. So when I was interested in buying the blanks and having the rods made, I called Dave and I said, "What do you like about that rod?" So he went into, it's super responsive, it's fast action, it's powerful. Okay. So basically, I have Dave's old rod. All right. Uh, I
Oh,
use it. I don't use it a lot. Okay. But I use it at least once a week. All right. And it needs some TLC, and I put some clear coat, down here because this was all cracked. I fixed that. So I made it look like, something like from Berkheimer or Miser spey rods. Okay. But being that I call myself the quintessential student of my
right.
craft, is I listen to everyone. Okay. Now, if somebody tells me, "Hey, John, you could have made that loop a little tighter," I'm going to tell you, "Hey, look, it has nothing to do with fishing." Okay. If I have to sit there and consistently tell people, "Hey, man, your loop isn't tight enough," they're never going to get on the water and fish. Okay, they're never going to catch fish. All right. So what I found out through trial and error and buying, like I say, all these different rods, is I found out what made me happy. I found out what became super efficient. And now when we talk about, like, if I die tomorrow, all right, uh, the mark that I'm going to leave in the sport of fly fishing is I helped influence a reel designer to make a bigger reel for spey rod guys. Okay. Gary Peterman created that line for me. Okay. So now you've got two things. And then, of course, the variated iguana patterns. So I've got several things, including the whole big fly gimmick, that guys can sit there and look at and go, "Man, you know what? I talked to John, and my spey rod casting just went through the roof like that." Okay, I get calls every week at Bass Pro. Most of the guys have my personal number. Some of them forget that at 9 o'clock at night my old ass is sleeping, so I gotta wait till the next day. But just in case one of my kids or my grandkids needs something, I leave it on vibrate. But the most beautiful thing about this, other than catching fish, is every single person that I mentioned, including yourself, would have never came down into my path of life if it wasn't for using a two-hand fly rod. That's how I met Bob and Jackie, was fly fishing biolab with a spey rod. And he's like, "Hey, Johnny, well, we're not doing the Russ impersonation, but you know how he talks, okay?" And I go, "Hey, Bob, you want to chuck it?" He goes, "Yeah, I want to chuck it." And the smile on his face was crazy. Like, then he's telling me that Lefty Crate used to use a spey rod. And then he told me when if Lefty was still alive, he would call you the Johnny Weissmuller of spey rod guys. Okay, so like all the guys that I've mentioned that first picked up a spey rod, you know, 30 and 40 years ago, I'm so glad you guys did. I'm so thankful that these guys put YouTube videos together because it has helped me educate myself to create a technique that I totally believe in. I catch fish. It's a ton of fun. And then, like, here's an example. All right. Um, I think catching more than two fish at once or on the same leader is a hoot. Okay. It is truly a blast. And really the only way you're going to throw, a long leader with multiple flies, like say you got three of these on there and you're fishing the beach, you got to use a two-handed fly rod. Okay. And once you once you get that kind of excitement and you hook into some of those fish, um, man, your whole life is going to change. And that reset button that everybody has, because I know for a fact, at one point or another, somebody has worked a job where when they get up in the morning, they're going, "Oh my God, freaking just put me on my misery." At the end of the week,
Oh yeah.
when you and I and Derek got on the water, whatever was going on the day before, that day is something that we can think back to when we're having a crappy day at work or we're having something bad going on in our life. Okay. For me, uh,
Right.
the double-handed spay rod has achieved that for me. It's brought people into my life. It's created memories that you can't replace that kind of stuff. I mean, like, let me ask you this question, Ryan. The first time you saw me chucking that spay rod, what were you thinking?
I was like, dude, what the fuck am I watching?
Yeah,
I was literally like, what the fuck am I watching right now?
yeah,
Because I remember we were down there. I had just pulled into Biolab, and I think I put in that group that we
yeah.
were all in. I was like, hey, anyone going to the
Oh,
Goon today?
well, let me
And you were the only one that
finish that
responded.
because I got something to add to that.
And yeah, and I was like, I was sitting there. He's like, oh, you fish here much? I was like, nah, this is my first time. And he's like, oh, there's somebody on the group last night talking about coming here. And I was like, that was me.
No,
And I,
no.
I didn't expect you to pull out a two handed
So
spare rod at all. I was
I've
like,
probably
what
met
is that?
in this last several years, probably close to 60 people out in Mesquite Lagoon that were like, "That guy's got a freaking spay rod." Okay, so um, last year I had a challenge last year. Several people that I was were close to, they're no longer here. They all ended up dying and whatnot. I had a friend commit suicide, and that was a tough one. Dave Olson died last year. Um, my best soulmate friend. Okay, he ended up getting sick, and he kept getting sick, and he kept getting sick, and him and his wife Patty came to Bass Pro and spent like several hours with me on a Sunday, and I'm watching this really wonderful
Uh huh.
person shrivel down to nothing. And we're talking about a guy that was like 6'4", 6'5", uh, lost close to 60 to 80 pounds, and had a heart monitor on him. And I'm sitting there
Oh
trying
my
not to
gosh.
crumble in front of him. And I kept telling him, hey, look, it when 2025 hits, this is what you and I are doing. These are my goals. And that was a Sunday. I texted him, uh, unbeknownst to me, Patty rushed him to the hospital Sunday night. So then I was fishing with somebody on Tuesday,
Oh my
and then
gosh.
on Monday, I find out he's in the hospital. So I'm gonna clear my schedule and I'm gonna come up and hang with you. Okay? No, 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 no. Get out there because he used to like fishing Patillo Creek and Biolab where
Yeah.
you and I and Derek were. Okay. He loved that area like you and I do. All right.
Right.
So I don't hear nothing. And then Sandra and I, my fiance, we're having lunch on fucking Wednesday, and all of a sudden her phone rings, and she turns and she's crying, and I knew right then and there that Lou was gone. I had to get up and go in the conference room because I couldn't keep it together. Okay, and for many months after that, every time I go to work in the fly shop, I have what I call a brag board. I have people's pictures up there. I got Dave Olson's picture with the big tarpon and the big snook, and then I got my friend Lou that passed away, and then like literally for 2 months, Every time I saw Loose Pictured, I would have to go in the closet and shed a tear because I couldn't keep that emotion locked in a box. That's how much he meant to me. All right. So now here we are, several months later. That is a lot better to deal with. Okay, because it is a dishonor to guys like Dave and Lou if I let that sorrow like stifle what I'm trying to do in fly fishing. Okay, I owe it to those guys. Okay, when I'm tired
Right.
and my shoulders are on fire and I don't feel like casting or taking somebody fishing, I gotta suck it up and I gotta make it happen. Okay, just like being creative with all these different variations of weedless flies and iguanas and poppers. Okay, it's my turn to kind of take over the driver's seat like those guys did. Okay, but if it wasn't for the spay rod, then I
Right.
would have never got close to those guys. And that to me is if I had to pick one
Right.
thing, that's what it would be. You know. Uh, so with you living in North Carolina now, right? That's North Carolina, you
Oh
said,
yeah.
right? So do you do a lot of river fishing? Is there any lake fishing
Yes,
up
sir.
there, or what's it like?
Yeah, so I do
Yeah, with like a
I'll
full
go up
weight.
to the mountains a lot and do some fly fishing up there. I'm
Okay.
fishing Yeah, I'm doing like a
Oh,
four
no
weight
kidding.
to I still got my 8 weight Reddington, and I'll I went to Aruba this December and brought it with me. I was trying so hard to go and find bonefish, and it was so windy out there. And I was like, I was casting into the wind pretty good, and I was like, if I never fish Biolab
So
Road,
that
I was
brings
like,
up an
I
interesting
wouldn't know
topic that
what
a
the hell to
lot of
do
guys
right
have
now.
trouble with. Okay. So like right now, I'm on my Lene, or what we call in America, patio. Okay. If Sandra was here, she'd slap me. Okay. Um, there's hardly any wind going on. Okay. The freaking weatherman said it was going to rain today. And I got some flies curing in the sun because it's all sunny right now. So one of the coolest things that I found out with two-handed fly rods is that the line speed that you generate from pulling and pushing, you've already established your line speed back here. So then when you slowly pull and stop, you've got like at least double the amount of line speed. Okay, it's twice as fast as what you're double hauling. Okay, uh, I really don't want to start chirping on the double haul because there's a lot of
Right.
people that don't know how to do it. And here's the reason why I say that. If you are a double haul fly fisherman, okay, listen up. If your fly line looks like a pig's tail on a big fat pig in a freaking farm, you are pulling too hard behind you. So your line is doing this, transferring on the forward cast. All right. Anybody that sees me use a 9 foot rod, my fly line never twists. Okay. Because I already know that here's an example. So when I do the double haul,
Never.
all right, I accelerate to a hard stop, I'm allowing the fly line to exit the tip of the rod. Okay. So as the fly line is going back, I pull and I pull. And then when I get here, then I have a transition and a hard abrupt stop. So when I do the double haul, I can throw the whole 100 feet of fly line with one back cast going forward. Okay. Spay rod fishing with the weighted shooting heads, you're developing so much faster line speed that when you look at a regular fly rod with, like say, scientific angler fly line, everything is like in slow motion. Okay. So to me, the benefits of learning how to bottom
Oh
hand
yeah.
cast a two-handed fly rod can carry over to your 9 footer. Okay. So now, since we're talking about the differences in techniques and stuff, so if you take that flies to fins running line and you put it on, say, a 12 weight, and you take a 24-foot or 23-foot head that weighs like say 450 grains, you can take that setup on a 12 weight, put a 16-foot leader, which is way longer than any of the guys that fish the Gold Cup. You'll be able to take like this paleo worm fly with one back cast going forward and that super long leader. And when you stop here, okay, and the rod tip is like that, as that loop goes to open up, you pinch and stop the running line. And then what it does is it kicks out the head. Then as the Skagit head is trying to hit the water, you slowly pull back the rod tip to slow down the airspeed on the front of your cast, and then everything lays out perfectly. You have the George Cook directionally acute cast,
Perfect.
and I hope somebody's listening so they can tell him that I stole his directionally acute flying one. Okay, so then going back to the technology of the rods. Okay, uh, George Cook did a video a while back where he was saying that the old-fashioned spey rods, they did the east-west wobble when you cast them. Okay, unless I see that on a slow motion video, I can't believe that the rod manufacturers would be that clumsy to not have the spines done correctly. Okay, so fast forward to
Right.
like your Sage Igniter, the Sage X, the Sage Method, the Sage One, uh, the TCX, the TCR. Those are your faster tip rods. Okay, they have a little bit stiffer tip up in the front. Those are the perfect rods for my kind of fishing. Okay, where if you're trying to be more of a fly fisherman instead of a spey caster, you're going to accelerate to a hard stop and then bam. Then I get this one. Well, hey John, what if you don't have any room for an overhead cast? You got trees behind you. Well, listen, pal. Uh, do a paused roll cast. Okay, I've I've been near the rocks like at Sebastian Inlet, and then I sweep and I pull and I establish what I call like a non-existent D loop and anchor point. Okay, so instead of pulling the rod and going straight, I pull, and just before I stop, I go up like this. So now the angle that I'm pulling is taking the head going up and out instead of going straight forward. Okay, now that's something that you want to cast. You can do the
Right.
same things with a 9 foot rod. And the guys, like I mentioned, all those guys like over in Oregon and Washington and British Columbia, okay, when guys were saying, "Hey man, you can't use that Skagit stuff on a short rod," that's why Ed Ward over at OPST started his own thing because guys were telling him, "Hey, look, you got to use this, you got to use that." So when you look at the grain windows that those guys are using, they've graduated to shorter rods instead of 15 footers. They've gone to lighter grain windows, and they created a huge uh, level of versatility in their fishing. Okay, if that makes perfect sense. Okay, you know what I mean? Okay, so with having
Yeah, that makes
really
total
great
sense.
resources like those fellas there,
Yeah.
anybody that truly wants to be a good two-hand fly rod fisherman, you have the ability to do that. Okay, let me see here. I'm trying to look at my table here. Okay, all right. See this big fly here? Okay, so you got 3 layers of craft fur.
Uh
I
huh.
got a buddy on Instagram. He hates craft fur, and like I've been posting a lot of videos because I got a lot of guys in Brazil. They're asking me, "Hey John, we like your flies. Can you help us out?" Okay, so I'm not doing it to piss him off. Okay, because he's also on the Squimpus Pro Stat. All right, but what we were talking about is like when you get a sheet of craft fur, right? Most of the guys they cut it. Now I like the action of bunny strips, but the problem with the leather bunny strip type material is that shit sucks up water like a freaking wet sock. Okay, so if you're using an 8 weight and you got a flimsy lead,
Yeah.
there you go. They got the cracker
There you go.
going.
That could
Woo!
piss somebody off.
Right?
Oh, pink
So
grass fur.
so what's interesting is, and this is a 5/0. Okay, this is a 5/0 straight octopus hook that has the beak coming up. All right, fantastic fly to use. Now, what I like
Uh huh.
about this is it takes quite a while for it to like really start sinking. Okay, the beautiful thing about having the UV head is that when I accelerate to a hard spot and I hard stop, is even on this big monster fly, I can still use a 20-foot leader on it, and literally most of the water fountains that are in the bass ponds I fish at, they're like say I think 160 to 170
Uh huh.
feet from the shoreline. Okay, far enough and deep enough for the kids not to play around with. Okay, I literally with one back cast going forward am like right at the distance of the water fountain. Okay, so then when I started to figure out that that's the kind of fly I want to use, then I took a single strand, and you see how thin that is. Okay, all right. So I took the Montana Fly
Yeah.
Tying Company steelhead rubber legs. Okay, okay, and so
Oh,
yeah, they're like the floss legs, okay? But leave it to fly fishermen to create, six different terms for one subject, okay? So, so what I did with these crafter flies is that
exactly.
the synthetic material is really durable. So you punch a hole through it, then you keep it tight like that. Now I've got myself a 6-inch fly that's black and purple. I can pull it through the weeds, and as long as you have enough tension on the backside here, you can still pull it through the grass because you've got enough weight to go through like grass and hydrilla. All right. So then when you're talking about like the weedless foam patterns that I
Uh,
tie, okay, when you look at this monster here that I built today, all right, I got another reptile that's going to get smashed by something. Okay. So basically, when we're looking at versatility,
oh yeah.
craft tubing from like the Dollar Tree, the Dollar General. I think this was from the Dollar Tree. Okay. Then if you're using, keel weighted flies or tying them yourselves, and then those flies there that I just showed you, I tie rattles on them. Okay. So I really I
Oh, it's
love the
awesome.
fact that when I look at all this stuff, I can sit there and go, man, you know what? I was thinking long and hard all week about tying a new iguana. All right. And then all of a sudden it hit me. Why not use this for the legs? Okay. You got bucktail, rubber legs. You put that in there. Okay. I got a rattle. Okay. And then I have several layers of chartreuse bucktail. Okay. So now I've got literally a new pattern that is added to my arsenal. You know, and then the beautiful thing about using a
That's
double-handed rod. So
awesome.
say for example, somebody said to me, "Hey John, I really don't want like a 15-foot rod. What would you recommend I get? Get something in the 12 to 13-foot range. Try to get a four-piece rod if you can. And then let's see, depending on the action of the rod, I would say anything from a 500 grain Skagit head, and then you don't have to use my leader recipe, but you could use some of those knotless tapered leaders. Okay, so say for example, you have a 10-foot knotless tapered leader. If you took, and say that's 10 feet, if you wanted to make a 15-foot leader, take 5 or 6 feet of 80, loop to loop it, and then, do like a triple surgeon or double surgeons or a blood. Add that 80-foot section to your butt section to
Yeah.
the tapered leader, and now that stiffer section will give you length and it'll help you kick out the fly like that. Oh, geez, John, you can't do that. You're supposed to add tipping material.
Oh yeah. Dude.
That's your tipping material right there, okay? Hey, give me a freaking break.
Yeah. Dude.
Yeah, yep, yeah. And that's a challenge to figure out is when you can get an 8 weight dialed in and have your fly go zzz, kabloop, and your fly line is nice and straight on the water. You're not creating a lot of water ripple and splash. You've truly mastered the most difficult way to fish on the planet. Okay, and then if you jump on a 15 footer, then you just climb to the top of the mountain of difficulty. Okay, because it's not easy.
Oh yeah. What's it called?
Oh, listen,
How's Mosquito Lagoon fishing after all the
after
hurricanes we had
Hurricane
this year?
Ian and Hurricane Milton, okay, uh, anytime that the lagoon, like when you and I were fishing that one time with Derek, remember all that high water coming in this way? Okay, I have found that towards the tail end
Yeah.
of the hurricane season, Mosquito Lagoon is the best place to fish. And here's the reasons why. The water table is up higher. You've got more consistent water flow. If you see all the culverts that are along the roads, any side
Uh
that's
huh.
got water pushing out to the side, fish those. Okay. Right now, I hit a father and son coming to
Yeah.
Bass Pro. They took a charter with a guy that I don't know at
Uh
all.
huh.
Okay. So I can't say anything good or anything bad about him. What I will say is
Okay.
this: if I had a boat and I was taking you fly fishing to the lagoon, I would have postponed it. I would have never, I would have never fucking taken you out. Okay. So
Oh.
I know a lot of guys, all right, and they'll be brutally honest with you. When the conditions are a certain way, we'll try fly fishing and artificial, and then we're gonna go to the live bait. And then if nothing is hitting any of those three things, then
Oh yeah.
it's just you're not catching fish. Well, I've yet to go back to work yet to see if these
Oh
guys
yeah.
are going to come back in and say goodbye and find out how they did. Okay, so the young kid, I've got flies at the store that I tie. Okay, Bass Pro pays for the materials. I tie them up and then I put them on a generic
Okay.
skew. So I've got this electric chicken. All right, chartreuse pink, dumbbell eyes, and some flash. Uh, Very productive fly for me. Okay, so he took one of those with him, and I'm waiting to hear. Well, that fly didn't work, John. Oh, really? Why is that? Well, I cast it and the fish just didn't want nothing to do with it. Okay, explain to me how your cast was executed. Because if you tell me how the fly hits the water, how your fly line hits the
Right.
water, if you tell me you're using a Reddington and you're using freshwater fly line, I already know after a dozen casts how crappy that fly line is going to work against you. Okay, you you can't sit there and give me that bullshit about well it's your
Oh
fly's
yeah.
not any good, John. Jesus Christ, you can't you telling people that fly catches fish and it don't. Listen, I have plenty of witnesses and friends that fish with me. My flies will catch fish. Okay? But
Exactly.
yeah.
We
So I
used to
mean,
fish that
it's like,
same
come on,
electric
man.
chicken
Really, you're
pattern
gonna throw that
all the
at
time.
me on top of everything? Yeah, exactly.
That's one you
Holy
give them
crap!
right here.
I'm waiting to find out from some of the people I work with that listen to this because they're gonna go, holy crap, John, we never hear you talk like that. Yeah, because I'm on the clock. I'm Muslim. All right. Um, but the
Yep.
other thing that I found interesting is
Oh.
I started promoting fly fishing events down here in Florida. Now, every time I look at some place like
Uh huh.
Colorado and the shops and the clubs and the guides, they have a really great networking system where everybody gets along. Okay, you come down to freaking Florida, all right,
Oh
and
yeah.
I've met instructors that have written books. They've been fly fishing longer than I've been alive. And then when you try to do something, they want like $2,000 or $3,000 to come be a guest keynote speaker. Well, I got a newsflash for you. I don't give two
Yeah, that's
shits
bullshit.
what you did 40 years ago. What are you doing now? Okay. I don't care how many tournaments you've won.
Right?
How many people do you get involved in fly fishing currently? Okay. I don't want to watch another goddamn video of some dude opening
Exactly.
up his fly tying room and then he's got reels and rods that he's not no longer using. Why don't you give it to somebody that can't afford to get into fly fishing? I gave away, and then I'm one of those guys that
Right.
I'll put my money where my freaking mouth is. I gave away last year $5,000 of fly fishing gear between backing, flies, reels, and rods and line for guys that needed it. Okay, uh, my buddy Sammy. Okay, hey Sammy. Sammy, my buddy Sammy is what I call one of the future hammer guys of fly fishing. All right, but we're talking about a guy that's the sole breadwinner of the family. He takes care of everybody. Works a tough job, physically beats himself up, and you know what? I have gear that I'm not using. So you know what I gave him? I gave him an Able reel, and then Gary Peterman gave him like an Echo Boost rod, and I put the $100 scientific angler line on it for him for I think it was a 10 weight that he's got. Okay, so now he's got a nice tarpon
Oh, it's
setup.
awesome.
Okay, when I hear guys that are in the fly fishing, not going to mention any names, but there was supposed to be this monster seminar coming up that they were charging over $1,800. Then you had a famous fly fisherman that you and I know real well, and they were only going to have this person come out and give them the minimal amount of money. Well, guess what? Since you guys are so money hungry at making money at fly fishing, that you had to cancel your event and then you didn't make anything. All right. So, so I'm sure somebody's going to
That's
listen
oh
to
my
this
gosh.
and they're going to get pissed at me. All right. But I'm going to tell you something right now. In the close to 3 years I've been at Bass Pro Shop, I have hosted more fly fishing events than anybody before me. Number one. Number two, I average, I did the math because I keep a journal on everything I do at Bass Pro. Okay. Let's see. About approximately 200 people a year I take outside and I teach. I teach more people than any of these guys down here except for the guys down in the Keys. All right. Because we have free fly casting at Bass Pro. Okay. So since I'm on the clock, there's a lot of stuff that I
Yeah.
do for free that people have a really strong appreciation for because I'm already collecting a paycheck. All right. And when it came time to sell every Cabela's switch rod, like the baby two handers, and then the 13-foot 8 weights. I sold everything that
Uh huh.
Cabela's and Bass Pro Shop had in stock. They sent it all to Orlando. I sold it all. Everybody that worked at Bass Pro Shop in the last 25 years before me, uh, they couldn't do it. I did it. I created a niche with two-hand fly rods that not even Dave Olson could do. And this is coming from Guy Tilliston, the Temple Fork wreck. He told me that a few years ago. Okay, he said, he goes, you created something that these guys didn't do before you,
Holy
John.
shit.
Okay, so when I started hearing that, that's when I started believing in myself more than what I did in the past. All I used to tell people is, yeah, I just cast a lot and I love fly fishing. Okay. But people, like Derek and you and Bob and Jackie Klauser and the guys in the club, I've had people to help me wake up to what I actually can do and see in front of me. And it's totally changed my whole perspective on life and fishing.
Oh yeah. Dude, I've seen it too. You're always like on TikTok live, Instagram live, do like tying for people at work and all the videos. Dude, when did Bass Pro start going to the home and garden
Oh,
shows?
no.
I swear I don't think they went. Yeah, that's all
Yeah.
you.
So,
That's all I mean. I was like, that has to be a John driven thing. Our Bass Pro here,
all
5
right.
minutes
So
from my
check it out.
apartment,
Okay.
doesn't have switch rods, spare rods, or
I've
anything.
developed a rapport with several key people in my life that have given me a platform with fly fishing to really help people. Okay, the Home and Garden Show is the Orlando Home and Garden Show is twice a year. They usually do it in January and September. Okay, so since I'm involved with the co-hosting of the Fly Fishing Film Tour, we're doing two separate days for that. Okay, originally it was going to be for April 11th, And then that's going to be the traditional way of doing it, where they show the films, from like 7 to 9, and then you go to the location, which is going to be Decision Tactical in Sanford, Florida. Then July 12th, leading right into ICAST, we are doing a noon to 9 event at Decision Tactical. Okay. So here's what's different about this. And this is
Oh, it's
what
gonna be awesome.
uh, really makes me laugh at some of the people in fly fishing. All right. You have an opportunity when you pay that $1,000 fee to the fly fishing film tour people that you can host that event several times throughout the calendar year. So why the fuck would you want to not have several events? Okay. Decision Tactical has air conditioning. They have a
Right.
bar. They have a restaurant. They got pool tables. They got banquet rooms. Okay, for like when you want to do like a big corporate event, and then they have a tactical side where they teach
Yeah.
law enforcement simulation training with CO2 powered Glocks. They have a they have a huge parking area. You
Dude,
can
that's
see their
perfect.
business from the I-4 and the 417. Okay, and now, all right, I'm not mentioning anybody's fly shop, okay, but there's a fly shop that wanted to do it, and then when they made the suggestion that they wanted to bring in guides, like bass charter guides and saltwater guides, they're like, hey, look at if it's not fly fishing, we don't want nothing to do with it. Give us our money back. When that happened, right after that individual backed out and ran like a little bitch back to where he came from, and I hope he fucking sees it because I've been down here for a really long time. I never said shit about those guys, and for the last 3 years, all I've been hearing is negativity and shit talking. If anybody has a freaking bone to pick with me, okay, you say it to my face and you say it to my face in person. Okay, I am done with you fucking guys. I've had it. Okay, I've sent these particular people thousands upon thousands of dollars of sales because we might not have something at Bass Pro. All right, and if Bass Pro's got a problem with what I just said, uh, well then let's talk about it. Okay, all right, I'm sorry, but we have an obligation to the community of fly
No,
fishermen and fly fishing ladies and children. Okay, and when people like that are only
I
caring
agree.
about what you can do for them now and how you can fill their casting classes and tying classes, that's all they care about. Okay, well, guess what? Here's what I don't care about. I don't worry about my sales at Bass Pro because I always have good sales because I hustle even when I'm not on the clock. Number one. Number two, I've been number one in that store more times than anybody before me for the last close to 3 years. Okay, because I actually care. All right. The next thing is this: there are people in the community that want to fly fish. The Home and Garden Show
Oh yeah.
promoters, Pam and Danita, they pay over $6,000 in advertising. Okay, the little sign that they made for me, okay, it was like a $167 sign. That every time I go to the Home and Garden Show, I can put it right at my table. Okay, they have given us a platform to reach out to the people in the public. Okay, that if somebody is on the fence about fly casting and they don't want to cast with a guy or a male instructor, guess what? I got several lady fly fishers that can help you out. Okay, all right. If you work a Monday through Friday gig and you want to
Exactly.
fly fish on the weekend, man, I have a whole network of people that would love to take you fishing. Okay. So then when you talk about having the ability to make change in a particular sport, okay, I've had more fly fishing lady fly fishers contact me for doing women's seminars, women fly fishing events. Here's an example. Okay, Samantha Talon from Tampa. She's part of Fly Fishers International. Okay, I've already done a seminar with
Yeah.
her leading into their snook tournament. So every year, every September, approximately, they host a ladies only fly fishing tournament. Hey, I think that's fantastic. Okay, um, you know, the people that could do more for the sport of fly fishing other than put money in their fucking pocket, okay, the those guys don't ever call me for help. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sure I'm going to get shit for saying it,
Yeah.
but you know what? I'm not on the clock, and I'm at my house, and I live in a country
Nah,
where I
you
can
won't.
say whatever the hell I want and how I want to say it. Okay, there are people that I fly fish with that I get really
Oh yeah.
pissy with from time to time because I'll ask them, "Hey man, did you talk to anybody new about fly fishing?" "No, I've been too busy with work." "Oh, okay. So it's okay for me to help you when you call me and help you become a better fly fisherman, but you can't take the time to help somebody else." Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
it takes two
So
minutes
if
to
you
pass
and
it on to
I
somebody else.
and some of my friends love fly fishing so much, then why is it that some of these guys don't pass it on? Now, I totally get not everybody has an instructor type mentality, but you know what? Every good fly fisherman or every passionate fly fisherman always has somebody in their network that they go to for help. Okay. You know what I mean? All right. So one of the things that Dave
Exactly.
Olson and I used to talk about was, how good do you want to be at something? How good do you want to be? Well, I am not going to sit there and say that I want to be the best of all time. Okay, then I sound like a freaking professional wrestler. I want to be the best that I can be. I want to leave some type of influence when I no longer can do this. And on my last day of fly fishing, I want to be able to say, you know what? I had an incredible journey. I met the best people on the planet. Some of them were with me for a short time, and some of them are gone. And I'm going to continue meeting new people and spreading the love of fly fishing because that is the most important thing. Okay, so getting back to the fucking guys in Florida, okay, why can't you get all these different fly shops together and put a big event on? And you want to know why? This is what I'm finding out is that
Right.
if they're not good at a particular thing, they're worried about you stealing their clients. Okay,
Yeah.
I
I was gonna
I
say
probably got one of
egos
the
and
biggest egos on
clients
the
and
planet.
all that
Okay,
good shit.
but you know what? When you come in and you ask, uh, if you ask a question that you think is absurd or silly, I am going to treat you the way you need to be treated. Okay, I had a guy come in. He goes, "Hey, can I put a center pin reel on a fly rod?" And I said, "Well, if you really want to do a center pin, I'd put it like on a 13-foot 8 weight spey rod. I think you'd have a better time with that. You'll get longer casting with it. And I already know how to cast a center pin on a 13-foot 8 weight because I've done it. Okay. So everything that I would share with someone, I already know how to do it. Okay. Uh, like when we talk about, making those furled leaders. Okay. Um, I've already got that down to where my furled leaders are better than everybody else's. Okay, that's that's on no science. Okay,
Right.
I'm sure
You got it
somebody's
down
gonna
to a
get pissed off at
science.
that, and uh, so be it. Okay, when I was competing in powerlifting, I used to hear guys say this: "Those who can't do teach." Who the hell ever Who the hell ever came up with that? Okay, all the best advice that I ever got is a
Right?
competitive powerlifter and somebody that told uh, it was 1880 or 1890 at 198, my last contest. All right. I listened to the strongest guys that could lift that kind of weight in accordance to the rules. Okay. If you were a 925-pound squatter in a gym, but you couldn't get past a contest, what's the point of doing it? And that falls into those who can't do teach. All right. My coach used to say, those who can teach coach better. All right. So that's why I say, like everybody that
Right.
comes in here, like, oh, here's an example. You know the Sage R8 saltwater fly rod? You know how many people have done a review on it and say it's one of the best
Yeah.
80-foot fly rods around, casting wise? Maybe a lot. Okay. All I know for me,
How many?
when I load that 12-weight salt rod up with scientific amplitude line, I throw the whole 100 feet. So how do you go from saying it's a great rod at 80 feet, it only casts 80 feet? It's because you're not a machine of a caster. So when somebody's looking at someone's review, okay,
Right.
how are they going to sit there and say, you know what? I was interested in buying that R8 Salt 9 foot 12 weight, but because this guy said it only throws 80 feet, I'm not interested in it. So that's kind of ridiculous in
Yeah,
my mind.
right. It's like,
Okay,
yeah, it's like it can throw 80 feet, but
yeah, you'll
if you're
throw
a
as
more
far as you
advanced
can
caster, it
take
can
it.
throw 100, 110.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
So, anyways, I didn't mean to
It's
bend
like you
your
chuck
ears
that thing to the moon if
like
you
that.
want.
But I think we covered pretty much a lot of really cool stuff. Okay. Um, Anybody that is,
Oh yeah.
hosting an
Oh
event.
yeah.
I've been pretty successful down here in Central Florida, and we're looking at hosting bigger and better events and whatnot, and growing the sport because that's all that matters. Okay. So if you don't want to play in my sandbox, fuck you.
What's it called?
Absolutely,
If you
buddy.
need
I have
somebody
room at
down
the
there for
house
one,
for
give me a
you.
call,
It
man.
would be an honor to have you, and I want to thank you again. It was a big honor to be on your podcast, and you're really doing well with that. It's one of my favorite things to watch when I can't sleep at night because my yeah, absolutely. This is your calling, my
I
friend.
appreciate it.
All right, buddy.
Thank you. I greatly appreciate it, man. Before we go, we got to go for the 5 songs for the playlist. Let's see what you got.
Oh, okay. Five
What
songs.
you got for the
Okay. All right.
playlist? 5 songs.
Let's see. Rob Zombie, like the Super Beast. Okay. Um,
Uh huh.
Judas Priest, you got another thing coming. All right. Let's see. AC/DC, Let There Be Rock. Okay. AC/DC,
I like that one.
Let There Be Rock. I can't remember the other one. Let's see. ZZ Top, A Sharp Dressed Man. Okay. Where are we at? Four right now? Okay. And then
Yep.
Cashmere by Led Zeppelin.
Okay, let's
I
see.
can't remember what I
Cashmere
just
by
said
Led
now,
Zeppelin.
man.
What
I'm
were the first
old.
two?
Rob Zombie, Super Beast,
I think it was
and then
Rob
let's see,
Zombie.
Rob Zombie, Super Beast,
Okay.
Judas Priest. You got another thing coming? Yeah,
I think that those were the two. Let's see.
yeah.
Uh, you got another thing coming. It was
All I will tell you, all I will tell you is this.
perfect.
All right, from a former
Awesome.
competitive powerlifter. All right, uh, emotion can take passion and fuel it to something really special. Okay, so just like powerlifting. Since I don't powerlift no more, fly fishing has taken the most tragic things in my life and have helped me to channel that and to keep my head on straight. Okay, it creates a level of joy and love that
Okay.
I think everybody should be exposed to.
I agree. I agree. But thank you very
Yeah,
much for coming on, man.
yeah.
I'm gonna have to
And
come down there and
we'll go
bring the
fly
8 weight
fishing
with
for
me
the
again.
Mosquito Lagoon with
Go
some big
beat up.
catfish.
For sure. But dude, thanks again. Absolutely awesome episode. I greatly appreciate you for coming
Okay,
on. I'm trying to
all
try
right,
and get
bud.
this up by 7:30 tonight so you can start shooting it out. I'll I'll throw a clip
Fantastic.
on the Instagram, just
All right,
collaborate with you
if
on
there's
that, and
anything I
then
can do to help you
we're good
out,
to
man,
go,
just
man.
reach out to
I
me.
greatly
Okay.
appreciate it again. Will
All
do,
right,
man, and same
perfect. I'll
goes
be
for you as
counting on
well,
you.
dude. If you need somebody to guest speak, I'll
All right, Ryan. Take care, buddy. Tight lines.
sounds good.
You too.
Yes, sir. Have a great rest of your day. Bye. That was Johnny Big Fly's Grasta for season 2, episode 5, I believe. I just realized I forgot to do my 5 playlist songs. So, we're going to do them live. Forgot to do them as a whole. Honestly. Ballad of Curtis Lowe by Leonard Skinner. I like that one. Let's see. Hurricane by Band of Heathens. I like that one. Take the Money and Run by the Steve Miller Band. What are we at there? 3? What do we got? Yeah, 3. Casey Jones, Grateful Dead. We're at 4, and then A Pirate Looks 40, Jimmy Buffett. Hold on. All right, so like I said, my 5 songs were Ballad of Curtis Lowe, Hurricane by the Band of Heathens, Take the Money and Run, Steve Miller Band, Casey Jones, Grateful Dead, and then A Pirate Looks 40, Jimmy Buffett. But just wanted to come on here, do a couple housekeeping things before we end the show for good. You want to come up, close the show with me, sir? You want to come up and close the show? Come on. Hey, come here. You want to come up? Oh, yeah, you can come up and close it with me. Ooh, awkward up there, guy. All right, here we are. Big Rick, the big baby boy we all know and love as Rickard Finn. Maverick Finn, not Rickard. You're going to be my mic stand now, big pal. But, excuse me. You want to say anything? Good deal. Good talk. Anything else? But, yeah, what an awesome episode. I think we're almost 5 minutes short of the record. Big yawn for the kid. 5 minutes short for the record of the longest podcast. If you have any questions about spare rods, anything like that, I'll be linking John's social media links and everything like that in the description. But yeah, if you want to see that man in person, visit him at the Orlando Bass Pro Shops. He just loves talking fishing, loves talking spare rods. He's probably one of the best fishermen I have ever watched throw a spare rod, a fly rod, anything like that. But like I said, that's about the end of the episode. I'll be honest, we got some pretty cool stuff coming down the pipeline here in the next couple weeks. Friday we got episode with Upriver Boat Works, and then the Tuesday after that, we got a couple cool guests. So stay tuned, and if you've been watching, thank you. And if you haven't been watching, tune in because this is going to be a awesome stretch of some episodes. Tell them. Tune in. It's going to be an awesome stretch of episodes. Do you agree? I think he agrees. But with that being said, we're done with the episode for this Tuesday. Until Friday, catch you some fish. Think about fish. Pray you were fishing. Wish you were fishing. Whatever you do to get to that weekend fishing trip, do it. And then listen to our podcast on Friday. Stay tuned. we also have the Fly Shop Spotlight series coming out for the wonderful Hendersonville Outfitters. So, stay tuned. That's coming Friday as well. Peace. Ricky, Ryan, out. Say bye. Bye. That's it for this week. Ricky Ryan out. Leave studio.